So I'm going to go ahead and do a demo on assignment 2.6 arcs, and I'm going to create this by opening up my template file that I created previously, and I'm going to draw this according to the dimensions and everything I have shown here. So I will go ahead and take a snip of this, and it's only going to be one page. Okay, and I'm going to open up my template file. So a template file, it has a file extension of .dwt instead of dwg. So this is .dwt, and if you see the little logo is a little bit different than a drawing file. So I'm going to double click here, and so that will automatically open up a new drawing. And here I can check my layers, I can check my layout, and I see that I have everything pretty much good to go. All right, and so now I will go ahead and paste this in here so I can begin to draw. Okay, so I see that I'm also going to have this open in the other screen actually. But this is what I'm going to draw. And so I'm going to start by creating a construction line from here to here. And it might be a little bit hard to see that. From here to here, this 5 and 5/16 line. So I'll go to construction and I'll create a line. I'm going to turn on ortho mode so that way I can make sure my line is perfectly straight. I'll do 5-5/16 and then escape. Okay. And then at the ends of each of these, I have a circle. So here I'll go ahead and move to the geometry layer to create my line work. And then I'll create a circle on this end, and that is going to have a diameter. So I'll do D for diameter of 3/4. And there is another one, so I'm going to repeat by pressing spacebar for the last command. And this one has a radius of 1/2. Okay, so, oops, I accidentally did 1/4. So let me delete this one. And I saw that because right here. So I did 3/4 diameter, but then I did one with a radius of 1/4. So 1/2. There we go. That looks better. And then I have a circle at the end of this line. I have a couple, so I'll go ahead and create all of these. The first one has a radius of 15/16. Spacebar. 1-9/16. Spacebar, and then 2. Okay. It's me. I'm just moving my keyboard a bit. Okay. And so now I have these two here. I can go ahead and create these lines by using the offset command. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to do offset And I'm going to offset that by 0.5. And I will do that on both sides. And I'm realizing now that this one doesn't have a radius of 1/2. That little, sorry, my mistake. I accidentally did this one here, but this actually has a radius of 15/16. So I will go in here and then do 15/16. There we go, that looks better. And I'll move these to the geometry layer. And from the center, I have 1-116. And I can go ahead and bring that line from that endpoint to each quadrant. If you're not seeing the quadrants, make sure you check your object snaps here. So you always want your object snaps to be on and working so that way you can make very accurate drawings. And I'll delete this one and then just trim the rest of this away. Okay. So now I'm going to go back and look over on this side, and I have some things going on here. So I'll go ahead and create some construction lines. I'll move this to the construction layer. I'm going to take the midpoint, I'll put it right there. And then I will offset this 3/4. So 3/4 to this side. And then I'll escape that. So I just created this line here and then this one right next to it. All right, and then I will extend this line to here for now. I'll trim these later. And I'm going to create a circle. So if I'm going back here, let me quickly show you on here what I'm doing. So it's a little bit hard to see. So I just kind of extended this line here, and I already have this line here drawn. So that way I can create this intersecting point where I'm going to put my circle. Okay. And so that circle, let me go back to the geometry layer first. This circle has a radius of 5/16. Okay. And then now I want to create an arc from this quadrant to the quadrant of this circle. All right, so let me go to my arc tool. I know where it starts and I know where it ends, and I know the radius. So I'll go ahead and select this one and specify start point of arc. So I'll specify here, it ends here, and then my radius is 7/16. And then I will do that once more. And if I were to have selected this start point and then this start point, for example, it's going to bend the other way. So let's say I had it like this, and I did, it's 1-116. See, and then I can just mirror this about this line. Oops. So I'll do MI for mirror. Let me try that again. MI. Select object, this one here. Enter, and then I'm going to create a mirror line. So from here to here. Do I want to erase the source objects this time? Yes, I do. Okay, so now I've created this shape, and I want to now create right here. I can, this one right here. So I can offset this curve because it looks like it's offset because I don't know where it ends. I knew where this one ended because I had this dimension here, but I don't have the dimension that goes from, I realize it's kind of hard to see my cursor on this white page. I can change my background and everything. Let me save what I have so far. And I'm going to change my color theme and background so that way it's a little easier to see my cursor. So, and if you also want to change the color, I talked about this a little bit in the video where we are getting started with AutoCAD, getting familiar. Okay, so now I have a black cursor on this white piece of paper. Okay, so I don't know the distance from here to here. It doesn't specify. And so I don't know exactly where it starts. And so what I can do is I can create an offset from this circle or this curve to the next one because this is going to be a difference between 1.5 minus 1 and 1/16. So I have to do a little bit of math here. So I'll bring up my calculator and I'll do 1/2. So 1/2 minus 1/16. Okay, so 0.4375. I wonder if that calculated correctly because I don't have any parentheses. I'm going to double check in my calculator. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so this is going to be my offset distance. So I will trim this and offset this by 0.4375 on this side. And then I'll escape that and then I'll extend this out a little bit further. And I'll create a straight line that goes down from there. And then I can trim these away. I'll go ahead and trim away the excess here as well. Okay, and so I'll just continue working on this half and then I'll go ahead and mirror it. So I already kind of drew some of it, but that's okay. I'll just go ahead and mirror after. So I'll trim. Oops. TR for trim. Here we go. And then I want to create a fillet here. One more TR for trim. Okay. And then let me join all this. Okay. And I'll create a fillet here. So specify radius, I'll say 0.5. And then, oh, let me undo that. So actually, I don't want this line to go away. So I'll do the fillet again, but I'm going to do it for this side. And this has a radius of 1 on both sides. So I'll say 1. And instead of doing a fillet here, I'm going to do a tangent, tangent, radius circle. So that way I don't get rid of this. So I'll do tangent, tangent. The radius will be 0.5. All right, so now I have that circle and I can trim it away. Like that. Okay, and then now I'm ready to mirror this about this construction line. There we go. So now I have my shape. My circle looks actually a little bit too small. Let me double check this. Oh, that was radius. Actually, I'll go ahead and double check it by. Let me join everything. And I could double check it with my dimension. So that says 0.5. I actually want it to be 0.75. Wait, diameter. Diameter 0.75. There we go. And I will delete that old one. Okay, that looks better. All right, and I can actually use these construction lines that I made for my drawing. And I can move them onto the center layer. Oh, and then actually my center layer is not showing up as center too, so that's something that I need to change on my template file. So I'll go ahead and change that later. Okay, so now it's on the center layer, and I can go ahead and dimension this. So I'll go from, oh, and let me go ahead and put a center mark here too. So I'll go to annotate, center mark right there, and I'll move this also to the center layer. Okay, and so then now I'll go ahead and click on this end and this end. And I'll set that there. And I want to change my dim style because I don't want it to be decimal. So I'm going to modify it. I'm modifying the standard. And I will go to primary units. And I'm going to change this to fractional. Okay. See how that looks? Okay, that's better. And I'm also going to change this to dimension. And I'll go ahead and move to the dimension layer and continue dimensioning. So now I have from here to here. And I have a whole bunch of radiuses. I have, see if I just hover over this, it's trying to, even if I click this other line, it's going to try to create that dimension, which I don't want. So I'm going to change it to linear, and then I'll do it like this. And I'll repeat that, and I'm just going to keep doing this so that it matches what I have on my assignment. So diameter, and I have a whole bunch of radiuses. So here's one, spacebar to repeat, spacebar to repeat. And I want it to be lined up because I mentioned earlier that I want my multi-liters to be aligned. So I'm just hovering over this, and actually it's not showing the tracking vector that goes up, but it's showing one that goes across. But that is aligned right there. And then space bar. Now I have that one aligned. Space bar. And let's see, let's do another one from here to here. And actually, it looks like there should be another center line that goes across this way. So I'll just add a line. And I'll move this one to center. And I'm just going to adjust these dimensions so that way this is within the lines. And I don't know what happened to my dimension down here, but I'll add it again. And I want these to be aligned as well. So make sure you're lining up your dimensions. You don't want it to be like this is way down here and then this is up there. You want them to be lined up. Okay. Actually, I like it better where it was. That was fine. Okay. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and because now I'm on white, I'm just going to change this to blue so it's a little bit easier to see. There we go. So now I'll go here into my viewport on my layout tab and I'm going to unlock it and find my drawing. And I can actually see that it says 1-to-1 on the assignment, so I'll just go ahead and put it on 1-to-1 also. I'm going to try to fit the whole thing in there. And if I can't fit it all in there, I can make adjustments. And I can actually make them from here, so I can double click in here and I can move this a little bit over if I want to. And it will change it in the model space as well. So I'll go here and I'm just going to move it slightly and I'll change this back to 1-to-1 and fit everything in my viewport. So I don't want any text to be cut off, so if I need to, I can adjust those as well. But that looks pretty good. And let me click on that one more time, that viewport. And I'm going to lock it. And so now I'll double click into my title block and I'm going to change the information. So this will be arcs and then the date. So, oops. And the scale, I have it at 1-to-1. And it really should be, because this is an imperial, actually, it should be this one. This is also 1-to-1. But this one could say, because it's 1-to-1, you can just leave it as 1-to-1, or you could say 1=1 or 1" equals 1. But if it changes, then please do it in imperial. And then this is sheet 1 of 1. And then put in the date. Something I forgot to mention that is very important is that there needs to exist a gap between your dimension line and the thing that you're trying to dimension. So, for example, the thing that I'm trying to dimension over here is the space between the center lines. And so I have dimensioned this to the end point of the center line so that there exists a gap between the dimension line itself and the thing that I'm trying to dimension. I have a gap here, 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 and here, but I do not have a gap over here, so I have to fix that. So I'm going to go over to model space. I'm going to select my dimension and grab this line, and I'm going to make sure it's at the end point of that center mark. So there's that green square. I know that's the end point. And now that looks pretty good. So whatever it is you're trying to dimension, whether it's the drawing itself, center marks, etc., you want to make sure there is a gap between that thing and your dimension line. All right, and here, for example, you don't need one because this doesn't have those extended dimension lines like these ones do over here. All right, so let me go back over here to my layout tab. I'm just going to preview it, and I'm going to do that by typing in the word preview, enter. All right, and so this is what it's going to look like once I plot my page. And that looks pretty good. So from here, I can select this plot option in the very corner. Another way to plot this is by going to the big A, going to print, over to plot. Another option, just to show you what they all are, is to right click your layout tab and go to plot. And I can also type in the word plot and hit enter for that command, or I can type in the word print and hit enter for that command. So let's go ahead and hit enter here. And everything looks good. It's all set up from my template. I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to select the appropriate folder and save it in there. All right, and this went ahead and automatically popped up in my PDF software, and that looks good. All right, thank you very much.